Welcome on in, everybody, to the daily creative challenge for Photoshop. This is going to be yet another challenge. We're here on Thursday already. I'm excited to get into it. I just want to say hey to everybody. We got Valdair in the chat, Annika, Frank, Kenneth, Ralph, Mercurial, Jennifer. Hope I didn't miss anyone. Sean, what's going on, everybody? So we're going to be doing yet another challenge today. And today we're going to be basically creating a little, if you guys ever seen Hercules, the old Disney Hercules, or Ghost Rider or something like that. Flaming hair, essentially, is what we're going to be doing. I want to show you guys first off, before we get into that, how to join the challenges, how to join the community Discord, and all that good stuff. So let's jump into the landing page here. If you want to join, you can go to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And you'll see this big blue button at the top. You can click there to register, join the challenges. If you scroll down, you'll see the challenges that we've done so far. And you'll see that some have yet to be unlocked. So we'll have a new one tomorrow that will be revealed. RB, good to see you. Michelle, Andreas, Alejandra, Leo. What's going on, everybody? So we've done the perspective one. We've done the cartoon yourself yesterday. And we're on to our third challenge today, playing with fire. So that should be a lot of fun. Again, before we jump into that, let's talk about the Discord. So this is the place where you're going to post all your challenges. Any challenges that you do for these set of 2 weeks challenges or the coming 2 weeks, you can post here. So we're going to have 2 weeks of live challenges this week and next week, and then we're going to replay those same challenges for the following 2 weeks. So overall, this is like a month long. You can post in this current challenge section at any period during that. But if you have like past challenges you want to do, we have a section for that. Design other is for your own designs for things that aren't related to the challenges. There's an ask a question section over here that you can see. So this is where we do everything when we're not live. So these streams are 30 minutes every day, Monday through Friday. And when we're not here, you can chat in the Discord, you can share designs, you can get feedback from the mentors, all that good stuff. So definitely check it out. There's some great designs. I've really been enjoying this. Frank just posted his. Very cool. Love the style on that. Some really cool cartoon yourselves ones. We still have a lot of them coming in with the perspective challenge, which has been really neat to see. Ted's got a really great title one here with the overlapping text. So check it out if you haven't seen it yet. If we have a little time at the end of the stream, I'll kind of look through some of these designs a bit more. But first, I want to jump into Photoshop. Hey, what's up, Chad? Good to see you. Murray, good to see you as well. Tracy, hello. Rick, welcome on in, everybody. So let's see. Did I miss anything there? I think we're good. I think we're ready to start. So for today's challenge, we're going to give this man a little bit of a flaming head, some fire hair, if you will. So this is the stock image I'm using. Feel free to use any image you want. I thought this one was fun. I thought it was a good expression, simple background. I think if someone's bald, it makes it a little bit easier, at least for the effect that I have in mind, but feel free to go nuts with it. So first off, what I want to do is extend the canvas upward. We're going to have flaming hair. We need some room for that. So I'm going to do Control or Command and Alt or Option C for canvas size. Just the hotkey for that. I'm going to click on the bottom arrow so it's pointing upward, and that means it will extend upward. And I'm going to just increase the height, maybe to like 3,500 pixels. Whoops. 3,500, please. Let's see if that gives us enough room. I don't know, maybe like 3,600. Yeah, that should be enough room there. Next up, what we're going to want to do is get rid of this background because we need to fill in this blank area up here, but I don't like the background we're using. I don't care to extend it. So I just want to get rid of this. So I'm going to select our character here, currently this background layer. I'm going to get my quick selection tool up here on the left. Oh, and let me move myself over here so I'm not going to be in the way of my layers. And then you go to select subject, this little button here at the top, very helpful. And this is a very simple photo. You can always go into select and mask, but for this photo specifically, I think this is fine. We don't, everything's very clear. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit this little mask button down here next to the FX tab. There, we got a little blank canvas. So I'm going to do Control or Command Shift N to create a new layer. And I'm going to fill in the background layer with kind of like a You can see where it is on my color picker. Not quite black, but maybe like this blue, really dark bluish color, something like that. That should work. Doesn't really matter. I just need something dark because I want those flames to really stand out, if that makes sense. So from here, I think we're ready to start throwing some flames on. So what I did was I took a little time to collect some flame assets. These are all from the free section of Adobe Stock. So, you know, maybe kind of know what you're looking for or have an idea and just go through and pick out some you want to use, or just use these in the starter file. First up, I want something that's going to be the bulk of the flame of his head. And I think this picture in particular is pretty good. So I'm actually going to select this layer. And what I like to do is just Controller Command A and then Controller Command C. So just to copy it. I'll leave these assets alone. I don't want to edit those files. Those are kind of where I'm going to be pulling from. And I am going to go ahead and mask this. I'm going to create a little mask down here at the bottom. And what I want to do, I'm just going to mask out most of this. This does not need to be clean, but I'm going to try to just grab the area that I want and see how that works. We're going to be using blending mode that will get rid of most of this black. So it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be great. Something really rough. And then I'm going to, Command or Control Shift I. So I can fill in the selection outside of that. We may have to do that again. Let me see. No, that's good. So from here, I'm going to try, I think lighten and screen tend to work pretty well. I noticed that screen shows a little bit of the background, but lighten doesn't. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to shrink this down quite a bit and just put it on his head. See how it looks, and go from there. Kind of thinking about where I want these areas. What you can do is you can actually use the warp tool. You can edit these in a lot of ways, but if you go to Edit, Transform, and Warp, which I actually have hotkeyed because I use it so much, you can kind of warp these around. And this is something you'll probably be doing in a lot of these situations. So I'm gonna grab that. I think I'll mask out the top of it and just kind of get rid of this. I'm going to put a different piece on the top so it'll kind of get rid of that soft edge. And I might mask out the area around the head, mask out that area. You can always use the selection tool if you want to clean or mask. Let's try a piece for the top. I think I saw that this one looked pretty good for the top. So I'm just going to repeat this a few times. I'm going to try not to spend too long on this so we can jump into other aspects. But basically, I'm just doing Command or Control A, Control C, and then Control V, and we got this. And I'm just going to place these around, warp them, edit them, and this is kind of a lengthy process. So keep in mind that when you're doing this challenge, this isn't like one step. This is something where you're really going to spend the bulk of your time trying to finesse the shapes to be what you want. So I'm doing warp again. You can do edit, transform, warp, but I'm using my hotkey, which is actually F4. Probably an odd hotkey to use, but it works. And I like that for the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. I'll do a couple more before we move on. I think I want another one for the top. This had some pretty good ones. So I'm going to grab this, just the section I want. It's much more manageable for me to grab little sections. And then get rid of that. Control V to paste it, so on and so forth. It is good to use a mask for this. I think I did not for the last one. This is kind of quick and messy, so it's not a huge deal, but it's good to use mask just as a matter of practice. So if you go to edit, you can go to transform and then flip horizontal. So I actually want to flip this one. I think it might look shape-wise. I think it might look better the other way. And I'm going to go back to lighten here and see if I can transform this a bit just to change the size around, see how that looks. Put that on top a little bit. So on and so forth. Let's see here. I think I may want to warp my original one down a bit more and mask off that. I'm going to select my mask here, make sure to select that, and once again, if you paint with black, it conceals. If you paint with white, it reveals. That's a little rhyme to remember. But that's how you can kind of paint it in and bring it. You can paint it out and then bring it back as much as you want. Hey, what's up, Umacorn? Welcome on in, everybody. Masayu, good to see you. Stony, hello, hello. Let's see. I did realize that the flames here are pretty good for the hairline. See how they connect to the base? They're like where they originate. It's kind of a cool shape. So I'm actually going to grab that real quick. And I'm just going to do this a few more times. We'll shrink it, you know, transform, warp, all that stuff. Then switch to lighten or screen. You can play around with what looks better in your situation. Let's try screen. Screen might show up a little bit better on the lightness of his head. It's kind of the hairline, and I might grab one more here. Again, this would be a lengthy process if you really want to sit with it for a while. This is where the bulk of the work is going to be. But I mean, you're completely creating the shape that you want for this. So feel free to take your time. Of course, if these challenges are just something you want to do in 30 minutes, you know, just you can do it really quickly as well. Whatever works for you. All right, so let's try screen, and then that's, yeah, I think screen might work a little bit better. So there is the reflection on this fire. I want to mask that out. It's this little weird edge here. This is actually from the reflection, so I want to soften that. And if you see any hard edges like that, you can always kind of soften them. It gets pretty chaotic here. If you have a system for naming your layers to kind of know what is where, I say go for it. But I think this might be good enough for our purposes to move on to the next step so we can get them all. If we have more time, we can always play around with this. But for now, we'll say this is good enough. Want to lighten that up just a bit. Good enough. Want to make sure I don't have any questions in the chat. You have to pay extra at the barbershop for this cut. It's a little uncomfortable, I think. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and group all these. I'm going to do controller command G. I'll put flames. I just like to keep my layers organized. And from here, I think what we want to do is create a gradient map on him, because he doesn't really look like he's on fire or like he's some sort of fireman. Not a fireman, a fireman. Somehow there's a distinction. So you can create an adjustment layer. You can click this little shortcut at the bottom and do gradient map, or you can do layer, do adjustment layer, gradient map. You can access them either way. But the shortcuts are nice to have. So I'm going to right click this, or you can do Alt and then go in between the two layers and click. You'll see that little arrow icon. That's the clipping mask. You can do create clipping mask by right clicking, or just that little shortcut with Alt or Option. So I do not want this. I want some sort of fiery one. You can play through all the default gradient maps. It basically maps different values to different sections of the person, or the image, I should say. Our case, it's a person. So play around with that or just create your own. I created my own. I just basically created a fire gradient here from red to yellow, red, orange to yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the blending mode over here in the layers to, I think overlay looks pretty good. So you can see the difference there. It maps it to the values a lot better. The opacity is a bit intense. I might want to put it down to something closer to like 60. Kind of like that. Yeah, 60 looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually mask it out. I'm selecting black. You'll see we have this layer mask here. And I'm going to fade it out near the bottom. I don't want the flame color to be affecting the bottom as much, but I think that looks pretty good. Kind of a bit more of a realistic effect. Gradient maps and blend if, yeah, definitely. He's not Burning Man either, yeah. He's not a fireman, not Burning Man. Um, from here, I want to create a little more like drastic shadow. So I'm going to create another adjustment layer, and this time I'm going to do an exposure layer. So I want to clip that to my layer stack as well. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to darken down the exposure setting. We're going to be editing this with a mask. I'm just basically thinking, what tone do I want my shadows to be in the area that there's going to be shadows, like on the bottom side of them and around the arm and everything like that. I think 2.3 or so, that looks like it's not bad. So what I want to do is go ahead and select black, which will conceal the effect. And with a soft round brush, you can see it's a very large soft round brush. Just fade it around there, so it's more at the bottom. And if you want to go a step further, you can actually select something like the quick selection tool will work pretty well for this image. But you could select the arm, and then I'm holding Alt or Option to negate the selection, to subtract from the selection. And you can always, oops, got to go back to brush, my brush tool. You can kind of paint it in, and I'm subtracting from it here. I'm just switching between black and white, depending on if I want to reveal or conceal. So I want it to be light on the top, dark on the bottom, just to like strengthen that effect of flames. I can do Controller Command D to deselect. I use that hotkey a lot. Can select his arm as well. Controller Command H to hide the selection. Another one I use frequently just because I like to not have it in my way. And yeah, I can increase the shadow by painting with white to reveal the effect more down here. But leave it kind of clear on the upper arm. So I think that's good enough. Let's see how that looks on and off. If I press Controller Command H, it'll put my selection back. Controller Command D to deselect. Useful hotkeys I use all day, every day. And I think that's not too bad. I can always like lower the opacity just a touch if I feel that that's necessary. Let's see here. So that's looking pretty good. We got the gradient map. So together those effects look like this. I'll zoom in a bit for you. And I think that's not too bad. He kind of has this warm glow. I think the fire fits in nicely with him. We got the shadow effect with the exposure layer. With the exposure layer here, you can see, just kind of increases it. Blends him into the darkness of the background a little bit more. Sam suggested it to me to do the parallax section. Oh, I guess this is another comment I'm missing. And actually, we're going to jump into Lightroom in just a moment to edit this. From here on out, I think I like the effect. You can always fine tune it with adjustment layers, play around, go through the adjustment layers, see what might help. If there's ever like a specific thing you have in mind, like, oh, I want to increase the color in this way, or I want to change the color of this thing, or the value, or the tone, there's pretty much always an adjustment layer you can use or some sort of effect you can do. So feel free to kind of think about what you want and play with it. From here, I would probably just go through. I don't like how like faded out some of this is. So I may go through my flame assets and refine the masking. This is where the kind of fine tuning comes in, but you can always just layer your flames. So if I wanted to fill in this kind of like dead spot here, I could put a flame over that. Maybe I want to get rid of that. Yeah, like I think it looks better without that shape. So let's put like one more asset, see if we can find something. I actually really like this asset here. I think these are pretty good. And then we'll leave this alone. I think you guys hopefully get the method more or less that I'm using to do this. Just transforming it, switching the blending mode to lighten. Sometimes I was using screen even, so feel free to play around with that. And I think that looks not too shabby. So let's go ahead and save it, and we'll show you some cool tweaks you can do in Lightroom. So I'm going to do save as, file save as. We will call this Fireman. We'll call it Fire Burning Man. I'm going to save this as a JPEG. And you can adjust the quality here. I typically do 11. Just depends on how high quality you want. Like saving some size. So let's bring this into Lightroom here. See if I can find my Fire Burning Man. If I can remember where I saved that. Oh, wrong folder, Sam. All right, let's take that. We'll do add one photo. And we'll play around with some edits here. So you got a lot of tweaks you can do. So first and foremost, when you bring a image into Lightroom, you'll have these panels on the right side. I think what I want to do is just mostly play around in the edit panel, but you can crop, there's the healing brush, the brush tool, linear gradients, all these fun things over here to the right. But primarily what we're going to be doing today is just some adjustments. So I really like Lightroom for adjusting images in ways that don't involve heavy editing. So if you're going to and when I say editing, I should say like photo manipulation. So Photoshop excels at that, but I really like how accessible all these sliders are in Lightroom rather than having to create like a million different adjustment layers. And it's just a much more, I think, refined layout for those types of edits if that's what you want to do. So I'm just showing you Lightroom today, just in case you want to use it in the future if you're not familiar with it. It's a little window into what you can kind of do with it. But I like it for these really easy tweaks. So we can play with the exposure, the contrast. I might try bumping up the highlights, seeing if I want to do anything with the shadows. I actually like quite a bit what I have already. But what I do want to show you first is some really cool presets. So Lightroom has these great presets, and they're super fun to play around with if you just got some time and you kind of want to go through them. You can kind of spend like forever. There's these portraits: deep skin, medium skin, light skin, cinematic. Like if you're kind of at a loss for what flare you want to put on your image or like color gradation or whatever, sometimes it's fun just to go through these and have it spark an idea like, oh, that's actually a really cool look. For me, I actually quite liked this PD01 yellow. I thought that was kind of a nice little preset, so I'm going to go and keep that. I kind of like where the light is at. The temperature you can always play with, kind of tweak it up or down. I actually kind of like the separation it seems to get from the background when I cool it down a touch. Play around with that. Effects. I actually want to get some more texture in this. I think that kind of really brings it out. Clarity, you can play around with this. I like that increase in contrast. I think that works well with the intense flame, so I'm going to crank that up a little bit. Vignette. I don't think we really notice too much on this image, but why not put a little bit? But the texture and clarity I really like. I think that is kind of the look I'm going for. We can do that a little bit more with sharpening. Just try playing with these sliders, kind of see how it affects your particular photo. I do want the sharpening up a bit. I like the sharper, crisper detail on this with the intense contrast we have. Optics I'm going to leave alone. And geometry, we can try this. I actually kind of think this distortion effect is pretty neat for this particular character. It kind of brings him towards us, and it really helps us focus on his face. And I think he's such like, he looks like a character already. So I think putting a little bit of that is kind of neat. You can always try these slants, you know, the vertical and the other. A lot of times you're going to know if you need a geometry effect, but I kind of think the distortion is actually pretty cool. It adds a little bit of that like fisheye warp, which I didn't even know before that I wanted, but I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm gonna keep it. So I think Lightroom is a fun way to just kind of adjust with things very quickly and easily, with a lot of preset sliders and options that you can play around with and see if you can come up with some cool things. So that's pretty much it for our challenge today, guys. I'm gonna call it there. I'm gonna export this out of Lightroom. I'll post in the Discord if you want to check it out. I'd love to see yours as well. Definitely post on the Discord with any designs you do in the current challenge section. I'm really excited to see all the ones we've been doing so far. There's been some really cool effects. I always love seeing how you guys kind of take this challenge as I present it, but just run with it, do your own thing and all that. So definitely check it out. Give it a look if you haven't been here yet. And we will be back with another challenge tomorrow. So thanks so much for joining, everyone. I do appreciate it. I'm excited for tomorrow's challenge. And we're getting close to the end of the first week. So thanks for joining. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everybody.